In the hushed corners of collectors' lairs and echoing the halls of toy stores, a tale of heroes and villains unfold. A tale intricately woven with passion, creativity, and unforeseen twists. This is the dramatic history of the Young Justice toy line, a saga that captures the dreams and disappointments of fans, the rise and fall of an iconic series, and untold stories of the action figures that were, then suddenly weren't. Before we dive into this episode, make sure you check out the Stay Whelmed merchandise down below. It's a way for you to tell all your friends you're a huge Young Justice fan and remind them to keep cool and stay whelmed. Also, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and sign up for our Young Justice Explained newsletter, a monthly newsletter that'll bring you all the latest on Young Justice, the most current episode of Young Justice Explained, and hopefully a little bit more. Well, are you ready to unlock the hidden and untold story of the Young Justice toys? In this first episode of Young Justice Explained, we're going to dive into the mysterious toys that people have talked about so much, but never actually seen. We're going to dive deep into the toy line that kicked off the whole series and ultimately brought down Season 2. There's some great stuff in here and some unexpected goodies. The Young Justice toy line debuted in the fall of 2011 as one of several action figure lines from Mattel, and their consumer products division developed a full line of DC characters based on the series. This included multiple variations of these characters, including sizes, which is not something many people knew. There was the standard 4 1/4 scale figure, which included the collect and connect pieces to build your own Hall of Justice, the 2-packs in that 4 1/4 scale, and the fully articulated 6-inch figures that included some pretty character-specific accessories and dioramas. All of these Young Justice figures, like many of the DC Universe figures, were sculpted and designed by Four Horsemen Studios. Now, the toy line was ultimately discontinued in 2012 due to a lack of demand, and sadly, shortly after that, Mattel withdrew their co-funding for the animated series, and this is ultimately what resulted in Season 2 being shortened, as well as the series not continuing. Many people don't know this, but on August 1st, 2012, there was actually a last-ditch effort to complete the 6-inch line, and Mattel took orders for a Ms. Marvel and Superboy 2-pack. However, these pre-orders didn't meet the minimum number, and the toys were never released. But there are some samples of the unreleased figures that you can find on places like eBay. Each line of figures was pretty robust, so let's take a couple of minutes to dive into each one. There were multiple waves of the 4-inch figures, as well as some exclusives from places like Walmart. Now, the show kicked off with Aqualad, Icicle Jr., Speedy, and Kid Flash. And they also included a pair of Walmart exclusives, which was a shirtless Aqualad, as well as a translucent Kid Flash with his taco fast food bag. Now, each of these pieces also included a Connect and Collect Hall of Justice, which would allow collectors to build their own Hall of Justice to set up their figures on. Now, the second wave expanded a little bit into the DC Universe and gave us some unexpected characters. This included Captain Atom, Superboy, Black Canary, the villainous Vandal Savage. Wave 3 included a Stealth Tech Aqualad, Sportsmaster, a Stealth Tech Kid Flash, and a Stealth Tech Robin. Now, the fourth and final wave of the 4-inch figures included the classic Robin with his bow staff, as well as Hal Jordan, Artemis, and Superman. So, as you can see from this line, one of the things it appeared to suffer from was a distinct lack of character figures that focused on the core characters in the show, with a lot of fluff like Superman and Hal Jordan or Black Canary that were part of the show, but not a big part of the story. Now, there was also a Solar Suit Superboy, but this was only available at the 2011 Comic-Con, and this was pretty awesome because it came with a light-up cloning chamber as well as 3 genomes. Now, along with all these single figures, Mattel also released a series of 2-packs, and these were also in the 4 1/4 inch size. Now, these 2-packs also had a collect and connect aspect to them to build the Amazo figure, which as a Young Justice fan, you know is a big part of the first series. Now, the first wave of figures included Batman and Robin, and Aquaman and Aqualad, but in this case it was a new Aqualad figure because he had a set of black tattoos. The second wave was Kid Flash and Flash, Martian Manhunter and Miss Martian, as well as the villainous Ra's al Ghul, along with Cheshire. Now, this marked the end of the 4 1/4 inch line. And we'll talk in a minute about some of the unreleased figures because there were some that were developed but never released. But first, let's talk a little bit about those 6-inch figures. The 6-inch figures were actually modeled after Mattel's DC Universe Classic series, but totally maintained the art style of the show. Uniquely, each figure came with a character-specific diorama and multiple weapons. This wave included Robin with a bow staff, his holographic wrist computer, and several bat and birdarangs, Artemis with her bow and 5 loose arrows along with a sculpted diorama, Aqualad with multiple water-based weapons along with his own sculpted diorama. We had Red Arrow with his bow and multiple arrows, a Solar Suit Superboy with a bent girder and his cement block hammer, and finally Sportsmaster with a ton of weapons including a weapons rack, sparring dummies, javelin, baseball bat, nunchucks, and even a boomerang. I actually quite like all of these 6-inch figures. It's really a shame I never saw these in stores because most of them really do look great and they seem like quite the buy. With all the supporting pieces and aspects to them, I have to say they really do meet the standards of that DC Universe Classic series. Now, there were a ton of figures that were in production at the time of the toy line's cancellation, and some of these even went as far as being in the prototype stage and being presented at conventions. As time has drawn on, some of these have even found their way to places like eBay and Amazon, but they have never officially been for sale. Now, there were a ton of these figures, and many of them came in the 2-pack format. These included Black Manta and the blue-suited Aqualad, Black Canary and Icicle Jr., Hal Jordan and Artemis, a Collect and Connect Mr. Freeze, Red Arrow, a classic Batman, Shazam, Black Manta, the Guardian, and a Puffer Mode Lagoon Boy. We also had a series of 6-inch figures which included another Batman figure, Kid Flash, and the aforementioned Miss Martian and Superboy from Season 2, as well as a 6-inch version of the Guardian. Now, obviously the cancellation of the toy line puts these in a really interesting status. You can find many of these over on Amazon to this very day. I've tried to link many of them down below. If you're a Young Justice fan, these are absolutely collectible, and the story behind them and their lack of sales, which led to the cancellation of the second season, is something of legend when it comes to the Young Justice series. So, if you want a very unique connection to the show, they're definitely worth owning and checking out, and quite honestly, I think this was such a missed opportunity for fans, I have no idea why they didn't sell. Make sure you join us for our next episode of Young Justice Explained. We're going to dive into all kinds of new aspects of the show, including the history, the comics, deaths, and villains. There's something here for everybody, so make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and sign up for that mailing list that's linked down below. We'll see you on the next episode.